stayed and slowly but surely started bonding with the other kids. After all, after some time, Messi's family went back to Argentina and Messi started living in La Masia, where though others managed to see their families at times every weekend, Messi would only be with his once or twice every year. Regardless, Messi persevered, and by his 4th year in Barcelona, as he turned 16 years old, he broke a record, playing for 5 different squad levels in a single year. Before him, no one had managed more than 3. That year, he started for the Under-19 B squad, moved on to the Under-19 main team. Then, oddly enough, he got called up for the first team and only then to the C and B squads, proving he was incredible at any level, no matter what. The debut for the first team happened because Barcelona were invited to play a friendly against FC Porto in what would be the opening ceremony of the Dragão Stadium, but there weren't enough players available, so they were forced to bring in academy players like Messi to fill up the squad. Here's a story for the fans of the channel. As some of you know, I'm from Porto, and what you don't know is that on that day in 2003, my parents went to watch the match, hoping to catch a glimpse of Barcelona greats like Ronaldinho, Xavi, Overmars, Kluivert, etc. Well, aside from Xavi, none of those players were available, which I'm guessing was terribly disappointing to them. Little did they know, they were getting to watch the first 16 minutes of a 16-year-old who would become Barcelona's greatest ever player. Now, the thing that really matters to me is that they didn't bring me along. I've asked them where they left me and they don't even remember. So yes, I'm still pissed, and yes, I'm considering the possibility of filing in for a child abuse case. By the way, just a few months later, they also went on to watch Cristiano Ronaldo's debut at the Euros in that same stadium, and they also didn't bring me. But that's just my childhood trauma, so moving on. Before his first official season started, one long-standing argument was finally settled. From the moment the Spanish Federation realized Messi was eligible for citizenship, they had been attempting to bring him on, but Messi, having grown up idolizing El Albiceleste, kept pursuing the dream of playing for Argentina. So to settle the matter, Argentina set up 2 under-20 matches in June of 2004 to lock Messi in as an Argentinian international, leaving the world to wonder what could have been had he joined the iconic Spanish national team of the late 2000s. And just like this, the whole world waited, holding their breaths as Messi's first official season was about to start, as he prepared to spread his magic dust on the pitch in front of thousands for the first few times. Leo finally got his official debut against Espanyol, coming on with 7 minutes to go as Barcelona beat them 1-0. But this win was a rare occurrence over Messi's first few matches. In his friendly debut against Porto, they lost 2-0, but well, to be fair, it was Mourinho's Porto and Barcelona were depleted to say the very least. But what is much harder to justify is how Barcelona lost on Messi's first ever start for the club. It's almost like Messi was paying a front for the decades of immeasurable success he would go on to have. So, on his first ever start, Messi lined up beside Henrik Larsson, Puyol, Juli, Bronkhorst, Xavi, Iniesta and Eto'o to play Gramenet in a Copa del Rey last 32 match. Back then, Gramenet was playing in the 3rd tier of Spanish football and they weren't even heading towards promotion. But that day, somehow, they held Barcelona to a goalless draw all the way to extra time, where they stuck the dagger, scoring the winning goal that would take them all the way to the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey, where they got beaten by eventual champions, Real Betis. It's quite a story, and it only gets better once you realize that Gramenet is still to this very day the only team that Messi has faced and not managed to beat on any occasion. I'm betting they hold pretty tight to that record. This string of unlucky results continued once Messi got his first full 90 for the club and debuted in the Champions League against Shakhtar Donetsk, somehow losing 2-0. But before the end of the season, one of the first jaw-dropping moments of Lionel Messi brilliance finally came. It was a match against Albacete and Messi came in with only 2 minutes left in the match. It was supposed to be a novelty, but Messi had other plans. Mere seconds after being subbed on, Ronaldinho spotted his run, shipped the ball over the defense and Messi, along with the goalkeeper to beat, used his first touch of the match to get the ball in place and the second to lob it over the keeper. The stadium erupted for a second and then the flag was up. It was offside. But the people watching from home quickly got the news that in reality, it wasn't offside. Regardless, Messi smiled, running back to position, Ronaldinho smiled back at him, and unbelievably, just a few seconds later, Messi got the ball again, began running right towards the defense, and on the last second, he gave the ball back to Ronaldinho. And would you believe it? Ronaldinho ships it over the defense and Messi lobs it over the keeper. A mirrored image of the first goal, and yet they still couldn't stop him. Leo went running towards the roaring crowd, flailing his arms around. Ronaldinho approached him, let out a smile, and Messi hopped on his back, giving us a moment for the ages. Over the summer, he took part in the Under-20 World Cup, having finished qualification as the top scorer among his teammates, despite being mainly used as a sub due to his ongoing problems with stamina. What followed was a moment that serves to show his mindset and just how much hard work goes into becoming Lionel Messi. Upset over losing out on playing time that could serve as a way to further help his squad, Messi took on extra training alongside a personal trainer to increase muscle mass and compensate for his health problems. Still, once the tournament started, he was protected, not once being given the opportunity of playing a full match over the group stage. But once they qualified for the knockout stages, something changed. Messi began playing the full 90 and it was absurd. As Roy Hodgson would go on to say, "Men are supposed to be equal in God's eyes, but Messi makes you think otherwise." In the last 16, he scored to start a comeback against Colombia. Then he put down Argentina's third to send his Spanish teammates home. In the semi-finals, he scored the opener against eternal rivals Brazil, and in the final, he scored 2 penalties as Argentina beat Nigeria 2-1 to become Under-20 world champions. Leo was the best player and the top scorer of the tournament, but of course, these successes would only be the first of many. A few weeks later, he would earn his debut for the Argentina main squad against Hungary, and once again it would not go his way. About an hour into the game, he came in, and what happened next no one could have guessed. About 30 seconds after being subbed in, he got the ball for the first time. A Hungarian player began pulling on his shirt, and Messi flailed his arms back. And it started to see if he even hit the player's face, but the player complained like Messi had broken his jaw. Even the Bulgarian commentators can be heard saying that Messi probably won't get sent off. But the referee decided otherwise and Messi was out less than 2 minutes after coming in. Regardless, back in Barcelona it was time for his third season with the club, and before it even started, an iconic moment took place. Barcelona had a tour through the United States during that preseason, and Ronaldinho, who had been a friend of basketball star Kobe Bryant, decided to meet up with him. As they approached the team, Ronaldinho told Kobe he was going to introduce him to a player who was going to be the greatest of all time. Kobe looked at him and said, "What do you mean? You're the one who's the best." Ronaldinho smiled and said, "No, that kid right there is gonna retire us all." As you might imagine, he was talking about Leo, who that season finally became a first-team regular. After some games getting used to his new role, Leo scored again. It was his first Champions League goal, yet again shipping the keeper in a match against Panathinaikos, where he got an assist as well. Over January, he would get the first goal-scoring streak of his career, with 6 goals over 7 matches, made more impressive by the fact he only played the full 90 in one of them, ending up with an average of a goal every 59 minutes. And so, over the next few weeks, Leo was called up for his first ever knockout stage game at the international level. The opponent is Chelsea. This was a huge opportunity for him to announce himself to the world, and he did it in a spectacular fashion. Even if in the end it was Samuel Eto'o's goal that made the difference, nobody was talking about him. The focus was on the 17-year-old genius who spent 90 minutes making a mockery out of the Chelsea defense. As the world was eager to see more of him at this stage, Messi came on for the second leg, only to go down 25 minutes in and be out for months due to a torn muscle in his thigh. After seeing Barcelona draw Benfica in the quarterfinals, it became apparent to everyone that this super team had a good chance of making the final, and I'm guessing Messi knew that as well. He worked extra hard for months in hopes of edging past his injury on time for the final, and he did it. On the Tuesday before the match, he was back in training and he made it public that he wanted to play in the final. But then the team sheet comes out and his name is nowhere to be seen. Frank Rijkaard didn't want to risk putting such a young player who was coming off an injury into what was bound to be the most hard-fought game of the season. Barcelona played out the final and were champions. Messi watched from the stands but didn't look happy. Perhaps sensing this, the players approached him and asked him to join the celebrations on the pitch. He refused. He felt he hadn't been part of it and so he didn't deserve to celebrate among them. This was a decision that he would come to regret and make up for a few years later. Over the summer, Messi played in the 2006 World Cup and it started well. He scored in his first match, made 2 notable appearances, but when Argentina met Germany in the quarterfinals, Josep Pekerman decided against starting him. Even as Argentina went in front, Messi, whose high usage rates and ability to keep the ball could have been used to control the tempo of the match, was kept on the bench. This decision went on to be criticized for years to come as Argentina would go on to concede and lose the match on penalties. As the 2006-2007 season started, Messi finally started becoming an unquestionable presence in every Barcelona match. Still, by mid-November, he had only scored 4 goals, and to make matters worse, what followed was a 3-month-long injury that saw him miss 18 matches. No one could have predicted that after coming back from injury, he would somehow step up his game to a level he had never shown before. After 2 weeks back, Messi was yet to leave his mark on the score sheet, but then came El Clásico. Barcelona sat 5 points clear of Real Madrid in second place, but that day, it seemed like it was 11 Real Madrid players versus Messi by himself. Just 5 minutes into the match, a poor interception left Van Nistelrooy right at the edge of the box, completely centered towards the goal, and just like the commentator said, he just doesn't miss those. Real were in front 1-0. Just 6 minutes after that, Messi got the ball on the right after a great pass by Samuel Eto'o and he slotted it right into the far posts, leveling the game but to no avail, as in the next play Guti would get tripped in the box and Van Nistelrooy would bury it from the penalty spot. Finally the match calmed down a bit, but still by the 28th minute Ronaldinho magically squeezed in between every Real Madrid player, eventually striking the ball straight at the goalkeeper, leading Messi to score again on the rebound. For the next 40 minutes, there were no changes to the score sheet, the spotlight shining down on Messi and Ronaldinho, who seemed in sync as any duo could ever be. But then, the inevitable happened. If you don't score, you concede. It's one of the oldest teachings in football, and so, a Sergio Ramos header put Real in front for the 3rd time. What followed was some of the most intense drama seen at El Clásico. Barcelona was pushing forward over and over again, but the clock was ticking down, and as the injury time was added to it, Ronaldinho got the ball towards the center of the pitch, Messi approached him, the through ball made his way to him, the first touch put 2 players behind him, and by the time Ramos got to him, Messi was locked and loaded, and there was no time to stop the shot that would put Barcelona at the top of the table. In the 50 years before that day, only 2 Barcelona players had scored a hat-trick in El Clásico, Gary Lineker and Romario, and wanna know one thing about them? They surely weren't 19 years old at the time. Messi was on a whole other level. Over the streak of games that followed, Messi totaled 7 goals in 6 matches, but the first goal he scored in the last of those matches against Getafe was out of this world. Comparisons between Messi and Maradona were low-hanging fruit back when he first started, but if Messi kept telling the press that from his point of view they were 2 different players, that day it was at the very least confirmed that they were equally as phenomenal. It's hard to see Messi's goal without immediately thinking of Maradona's goal of the century in 1986. They got the ball in roughly the same place, they progressed forward with the same frenetic speed, left what seemed like half a dozen defenders behind, only to end up dribbling past the keeper in the same way, leaving the last defender hanging hopeless by the near posts. Iconic as it gets, one of the most memorable moments in football ever, let alone by a teenager. Look, the world as a whole was freaked out by their similarity at this point, so imagine how everyone felt when just a few weeks later in a match against Espanyol, Leo tied the match by jumping alongside the goalkeeper and scoring with his hand. Just like the famous hand of God, it was like Messi was paying homage to the man who led his country before him. It was as beautiful as it was intriguing to see. Unfortunately, despite Messi's best efforts after drawing against Real Betis in the last minute of the match, Barcelona dropped down to second place, tied on points with Real, who would eventually be champions of Spain. Over the summer, Messi took part in his first ever Copa America, and it seemed that right from its start, this competition was determined to leave Messi with a sour taste in his mouth. After scoring in both knockout matches that led to the final, Argentina met Brazil. But not in the usual way. This Brazilian squad was missing pretty much every single one of their best players, as they had requested to skip the tournament in order to get some rest following a tough club season. Imagine the shock of everyone when a Brazilian squad without Ronaldinho, Kaká, Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos or even Adriano managed to beat Argentina by 3 goals despite their heavy favoritism. It was a day to forget for Lionel Messi. Messi started the next season with an impressive goal-scoring streak of 8 goals in 6 games, including ones against Atletico, Lyon, Sevilla and Stuttgart. He kept a steady supply of goals over the season, and by December, he made the podium of the Ballon d'Or for the first time, sitting below only Cristiano and Kaká. Later on in the second leg of the last 16 matches against Celtic, having already scored twice against them, Messi came off crying, once again having problems with his hamstrings. The thing is, Barcelona was aware Messi shouldn't have played that game, but due to pressure from the media, Rijkaard ended up fielding him regardless. After this injury, Messi began being even more heavily tracked by the medical staff, following a new workout regime involving lots of stretching of his thigh muscles and having his sleep and meals tracked as well. Once he was back on the team, one of his first matches would be one for the history books, a Champions League semi-final, Barcelona versus Manchester United, the first match between Messi and Ronaldo. Unfortunately, it would be far from the most exciting match they'd provide us with. With Messi injured and only 1 goal between the 2 legs, there isn't much to be said about it, though Ronaldo did miss a penalty 3 minutes into the match, so that was a fair bit intense. Regardless, Barcelona was out of the Champions League, and with the league not going their way either, only managing 3rd place, 18 points off the top, Rijkaard was replaced by a new manager, an ex-Barcelona player. You know who it is, Pep Guardiola. But before Messi got introduced to his magical tiki-taka, it was time for the Olympic Games. It's an odd competition, but still an interesting one. It ends up working similarly to an under-23 tournament, with the exception that 3 players over that age are allowed to participate. So, Argentina added Riquelme, Mascherano and Pareja to their already strong squad, and the outcome was a tremendous success. But the hardest part was getting Messi to participate. See, the Olympic Games take place very shortly before the start of the season, right at the time when Barcelona would take part in the Champions League playoffs, and so they not only didn't allow Messi to go, but made sure to take the Argentinian Federation to court and won. So you probably ask yourself how it all changed. Pep Guardiola had not only taken part in the games back in his time, but he was also a gold medalist, and understanding the value that memory had for him, he convinced the club to let Messi go, and what followed were 6 straight wins, with Messi scoring 2 goals and getting himself an Olympic gold medal as well. As for Barcelona, they still qualified, of course. Now with Guardiola in command, many things changed. Despite being sort of a rookie coach at the time, Guardiola had informed Deco and Ronaldinho that their services would no longer be necessary, as he found their bohemian lifestyle to be a bad influence on youngsters like Leo. Even Eto'o would get the same news, but would end up staying for 1 more year. Even though all of this was met with some shock, with it came the opportunity to offer Leo something that would become a symbol for the rest of his career: the Barcelona number 10 shirts. And with it, Messi's prime form had been unlocked, and we began witnessing what was the first few years of Messi's most frightening and most inspiring performances. The only negative aspect to all of this is that Salvador Aparicio, president of Grandoli and Messi's first ever coach, passed away that year and was never able to witness his old pupil rise to the top of the world. By December, Messi totaled 25 goals in 20 matches, but still, when the Ballon d'Or came around, he managed only 2nd place below Cristiano, with the Champions League title making a big difference. But if that was so, Messi had to take it from him, and so he began working towards it. In his first half of the season, he had already managed 8 goals and assists across 4 group stage matches, so it was just a matter of keeping them coming. Over the last 16, Barcelona would thrash Lyon 6-3 on aggregate, with Henry and Eto'o taking center stage with 6 goals and assists between the two, while Messi would settle for a single goal. But in his next performance, Barcelona really needed him, and that time there was no such thing as settling. Barcelona met Bayern Munich for the quarterfinals, and 9 minutes into the match, in a very similar play to that of the first goal in his El Clasico hat-trick, Messi got the ball off of Samuel Eto'o and put it in the back of the net with just 2 touches. Only 4 minutes later, Messi would return the favor, completely mirroring the first goal as he assisted Eto'o. Before the end of the first half, it was Henry's turn to get into the action, gifting Messi his second goal and then scoring a 4th one to end the match. The toughest match of the campaign came against Chelsea in the semi-finals. It was a long, drawn-out match involving